Hello. I swear I switched everything on me, but maybe they didn't. Hi, I'm Andrew. It's Wednesday. Time to sit. Uh, Taking a quick look to say hello to Saban, Bonjour Paul, hello Ruth, Marjorie, welcome back. Um, Hello Colette, welcome back as well. And Malcolm, hey, how you doing? All right, I've got my phone set on airplane mode, and yeah, so I don't. We'll see kind of where our theme goes, and actually, I've now already um, for the folks that are signed up for the mailing list. I think I keep forgetting to mention this, but if you aren't signed up for the mailing list, I believe that I sent out um, a reminder yesterday about 24 hours in advance. I'd gotten some feedback that it's helpful to get it kind of the 24-hour range instead of getting it on like Sunday, getting the reminder on Sunday or Monday. So I was trying to lean into that a bit, but maybe you didn't get it. So, and then in this email, or this reminder email, I had sent out something where I was quoting a Zen teacher from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So during the pandemic, I started sitting with different Zen groups, and one of the ones that okay, so Paul didn't get it. Well, that is interesting. Maybe it did not. Well, that is intriguing. So I thought I sent it. Oh, I know why. Okay. Well, that's your error. So it looks like, um, okay. So yeah, it looks like I didn't get. It looks like I didn't get a full list of people included. So that is on me. So yes. So I will make sure to to have that next week. Yeah. Okay, Lynn. Sorry about that. Um, and welcome from Covington, Louisiana. Okay, yeah. So sounds like did receive last week's, but not this week's. Yeah. Okay. Well, as technically advanced as I am, I still make mistakes. When um, when I tell my mom that I make mistakes with things, she's always moderately relieved because she thinks since I'm a software programmer or software engineer that I don't make any mistakes, and nothing could be further from the truth. So in this email that most of you didn't get, I was talking about and I'll basically resend that out, I think, or something along those lines, maybe. But this Dharma talk from a teacher in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, named Zuiko Redding, and Zuiko's um, Dharma talk was called "Living Impermanence," and one of the things that I really resonated with in the talk is this notion of when we get too serious, um, and I think that when I get really, really serious, that's almost an opportunity or it's almost a cue for me to look a bit deeper or to try to kind of maybe understand why am I getting so serious. Not to quote the Joker from Dark Knight, but what's going on. And so we'll play a little bit with that. So what are we going to do? 25-minute sit, light guidance, usually something that is adjacent to the unified mindfulness system, which is what I am trained and certified in. And then we'll end the 25-minute sit. So we'll do that for 20 minutes. And then we'll end with 5 minutes of do nothing. Or in other words, the technique of no technique. Just to play around with that contrasts. I really think that the contrasting of technique and no technique is often where we pick up a lot of information about how we can use the technique as our own teacher It's a big, huge theme for Jeff Warren, is this notion of how can we be our own teacher, or how can we use the practice and the teachings and lean on full blown, teachers and everything else, lean on them and then reinterpret it in a way that it helps us kind of show up the way we want to in our lives. So, this idea of contrasting, or kind of having a technique and then taking that technique away, I feel like there's something in there that's particularly helpful. So, yeah, if you have questions or comments or anything else, you can offer those in chat at the end. I'll do my best to respond. And then, as Ruth will at some point say, if you enjoyed the sit, you should like. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider that. And I guess there's a bell that you can tap, and that bell will tell you when we go live. So I think that's most of the little things that I would say. I remembered to post on Instagram. So on Instagram, my account for coaching and meditation coaching in general is leonards.coaching. So I did remember to post a reminder there, but that may or may not have helped anybody. So, all right. So we'll get set up here. As always, some gratitude for Jeff Groves, who highlighted back in the day when I was filling in as a guest host on Do Nothing Project, to remember to turn my phone on airplane mode. I've got my fancy bell. And if you have your own technique, you're always welcome to allow my guidance to kind of be in the background. You can think of me as a noise generator, however you'd like to, but you can always put that in the background. And then at the beginning of this sit here, I'll offer kind of a place that you can come back to as a waypoint. So if the guidance gets you a little far off, or you don't feel as supported by the guidance, you can always come back to that notion of sitting and knowing that you're sitting. All right, let's do this. So as we start out, just really beginning by how we take our seat is really the beginning of our practice. And again, if you're standing or lying down or walking, just how the attitude that you bring to that. Is there a lightness that you can offer? As we sit down, you might even notice a bit of sternness or a seriousness in how you sit, how you begin. And again, not trying to chase that away. We're giving space for that. We're just really noticing it. Like, oh, there's the serious meditator identity showing up here. So, and ultimately, really leaning in, if you're in a seated posture or you're on a cushion, leaning into the idea of upright without being uptight. Really just trying to use the posture of the body, give us a little bit of the notion that mind follows body. So we can sit in a symmetric, still, not sort of statuesque or forcing ourselves to be a statue. Just seeing kind of what's here, what's already here. And what's already here might be some end of day tension, or maybe a little bit of soreness or tightness. And then capping off or settling in with a few deliberate breaths. Slow and low is our tempo we're going for. Breathing in through the nose allows us to breathe low and slow into the belly. And then breathing out through the nose allows us to extend and accentuate the exhale. And you might notice there's a little bit of a release or a settling after a few. As I mentioned at the beginning before we really started our guidance, it's just marking this point right here of this idea of sitting and knowing that you're sitting as being a point you can come back to. I'll be offering guidance around working with a home base, and if that's not resonating with you or you don't feel as supported, just going back to this real basic awareness of the body in three-dimensional space, seated. So just kind of seeing what might be a home base for you to work with. The breath doesn't have to be the choice. So, but if the breath is your jam, then there's no shame in leaning on that as your home base. So beyond the breath, maybe the sounds around you, sound of clock, ceiling fan, refrigerator. Sometimes if you're used to sitting in the same room, you can almost kind of hear what they call in the audio world as room tone. What does it sound like to be in that space, and seeing if you can connect to that. And if those options aren't good to the breath and sounds don't work so well, or just seeing if you can focus on maybe the feeling of your feet on the ground, the weight of the body and the posture. So the key is just having a home base for what we're going to work with today. So we'll have that home base. What I want you to see is when you veer away from that home base, can you come back without a sternness? Can you bring your attention back without feeling sort of punitive? Can we the seriousness of sitting and missing the mark, so to speak, and then bringing the attention back and doing that just with a real kind acceptance. And if you've picked a home base, the last thing I'll offer is if you picked a home base where you feel like there are gaps or you feel actual rest, you can always note that as well. So if you're using sounds and then there's a gap in the sounds, you can note that as a auditory rest. So can use the label rest, just noting that. So that gives you something that you can always be noting for your home base. So I'll let you explore, and then I'll check in a little bit. So we meditate not to be perfect, but help us kind of change our relationship to things. So that notion when we drift away or we catch ourselves where we don't expect to be or didn't intend to be, that's the waking up moment. So if we did nothing but sort of bring our attention back over and over and over, that's still really training our skills. But if you're in that moment where you're like, ugh, this again, like can't even keep my attention, just seeing if you can pause and feel into what does that frustration feel like. So where does that feel? Where do you feel that? Do you feel it in the body, or is it mental talk? Is it mental image? Just seeing if we can take the frustration and turn it into the sensory experience. Letting the content be wherever, no big deal. And then resetting. So we can always start over. So it might be helpful to reset the posture as a physiological cue. So you can kind of clasp, stretch back up, and then settle in. Just a bit of a reset and begin all over again. And if you notice that seriousness, just being like, okay, seriousness is here. And then shifting back to your home base. And then lastly, if you've been working with sounds, you may feel like there are unwanted sounds that have invaded your environment. So just the notion that you can shift your home base if you need to, just out of necessity. So keep exploring. So here's your last choice point for the night. If you feel like you're in a groove with your home base, then by all means continue. But this is your opportunity to let go of the technique and to do nothing. It might feel like you've been sort of carrying a pack on a hike and you get to put the pack down. And in putting that pack down, you kind of feel a little bit of a relief. And just as a reminder for the do nothing technique, we're letting go of any intention to control our attention. And then we're not monitoring. So if we happen to notice that an intention to control our attention has arisen, we let it go. And if we do that 2 or 3 times, then that's not really your intention. So either way, enjoy the rest of the sit, and I'll ring the bell when we're done. May any benefit generated by us sitting together today go to benefit all beings. Thank you for your practice. Um, yeah, like I mentioned, if you have any reports, comments, and such, you can always put those in chat. And just a bit of a self-report. I don't know what it is like for everyone else, but I know often when I'm working with a home base, I'll have different when I get concentrated, I'll have different sensations come up, and I've over the years of sitting categorized those as signs that I'm kind of like more concentrated. Whether I really am or not is probably up to, or I won't really know unless I've got electrodes strapped onto me or something, I guess. Um, but what I'll find is that sometimes that's part of why I offer that guidance. So like you can do the do nothing practice, or you can keep going. And my hope is that I don't disturb you enough to get you off of that pleasant sensation if you're really deeply concentrated. So we'll see. Hopefully I don't. But I think there's anytime I speak, I'm always a little bit worried that I'm running the risk of disturbing that delicious sort of concentration that some folks are in. So you're incredible. It's a you're very very welcome, Malcolm. So good to hear, Ruth. Um, Thank you, Paul, and you're welcome as well. Marjorie, great to have you back. Actually, maybe you were here last week and I didn't remember, but it's excellent to have you sitting here live with us. And Colette, you're very welcome. And to the folks that watch in the future on the recording, thank you. I appreciate that. Jeff will be back this week. I know he is back in Toronto. So that's I think most of the things that I normally say at the end. So, oh, okay, good. Thank you for that report, Saban. Um, I recently had sat with a group, and they put us into breakout rooms or whatever, and one of the reports by someone was that um, the guidance had too much talking, and I wasn't leading the guidance, but as a coach, I was like, tell me more about that. Like, what, how much talking is too much talking? So it made me a little more aware of that recently. Um, so yeah, but and I don't know how much of my environment kind of bleeds into your world as well. So I'm always kind of curious about that too. So yeah, so if you're ever in a like a monastery setting, at least in the Soto, so when I would go to Upaya, which is in Santa Fe, um, they alternate, so seated meditation or zazen, and then walking meditation, which they call kinhen. Um, and the first retreat I ever did, I noticed that some people just like sat through the walking meditation, and I was like, whoa, like that's like a serious practitioner, like to continue to sit through that whole sort of period. Um, and then I realized after time that if they'd gotten into like a really deep concentrated state, then that was like that was their choice, I guess. And I at the time I kind of thought, when the clackers go, you got to stand up. You got to do the thing. And so a bit of my like altar boy training maybe came into interject in all of that. But I always thought about that notion of really those sort of high concentrated states. And um, so it's interesting, like some days it's available, and other days and then weeks and months you're just like, all I can do is sit. I can just get myself on the cushion and do that. So, but yeah, that's great to hear. So thank you for sharing back the reports there. Have an excellent week. Whether you're on to Spanish class or whatever in the rest of your week here, um, have an excellent and may you have the rest of your week with ease, I guess maybe is the most loving kindness phrase way, and really appreciate the folks that have been showing up regularly. It's really it's excellent. So I will be in chat on Sunday, and I'll see you then.